Welcome back, everyone. Getting so close to 2,000. Maybe if y'all are interested in getting a chance at the signed books, that you share a little more. I know sharing is kind of a pain because then everybody in your zeitgeist, in your world knows that you're a nerd, knows that you love comics, that you listen to an old angry man like me. But it does help the algorithm, and it not only does that, it introduces us to a lot of people that might not have seen us before. That out of the way, let's talk again about who else but CGC. Now, here's the apex of my argument. We've come a long way. I don't know, maybe we have 7, 8 videos on this, maybe more, who knows. But this is sadly going to be, unless something else comes up, where I was leading this to, right? We're on the garden path, holding the hands right over the cliff. So here's the end of it, in that what might change everything is these two large investment companies, Vanguard and Blackstone, leading the certified collectibles group into some infringement on the antitrust law. CGC for comics already has a large part of the market, but so does NGC, so does JSA, so does a lot of the companies that they've been buying and putting together under one banner. And then when you add that a lot of the people use GPA to price value their graded books, of course only their CGC graded books, it smells kind of monopolistic. And the FTC is out there and they are hunting for this type of actions going on in the marketplace. It was okay when, you know, the leader was CGC, but you had CBCS and you even had PGX and then a brand new upstart EGS. But their market share is shrinking so much, and now with bringing JSA in under the CGC, where they can, you know, that's the one thing CBCS was doing that would set them apart. So if you had a signed book, like if you can see on the wall, I have a couple of Rob Liefeld Youngbloods that were signed back in the 90s. If I wanted to have them graded, but now I would have to go to CBCS because they could verify the autograph. Now I can send it to CGC. Swaggle House put a great video out where he was at WonderCon talking to dealers. Great video. Go watch it. Pause this, open another screen and go watch it now. A couple of those guys had some really great points on this. It makes me really happy to be a comic book dealer, listen to these guys. Really business savvy. A lot of them having, like I talk about, there's so many different business models to have. But a lot of them talking about that's the game changer. That was the one thing that set CBCS apart, was that they could verify your autograph on your comic without it being visually by one of, you know, somebody visually seeing it that was part of the company, like CGC did. Which, you know, you don't have to pay the extra amount for the autograph and stuff like that. You can get the cheap autograph and then get a thing. A lot of their opinions was that people are going to crack their CBCS books now that they'll be taking the and authenticating the autographs and sending them into CGC just because the CGC gets more money on sales. And if you're in business, I get it. You're trying to make the most dollar out of every book. But like I just said earlier, everybody has a different business model. I don't want to go through that pain and have all this money invested in CGC, and if it blows up and then you have all this expensive plastic that is worthless. But back to the thing is the FTC has recently sued several different large companies. Right now they're suing Apple. They recently got $2 billion from a company for price fixing and you know, breaking the antitrust laws. And now they're after Apple. And they've gone after Microsoft in the back in the day when they were the leader with Windows, right, of an operating system. And they were preloading it on all the computers that you would buy at any one of the places that you Best Buy or any of the computer stores. And because they were preloading it, it became an antitrust problem. And then all the other, there's been a lot of antitrust about bloatware being added to certain phones where the company was forcing you to use things that they were getting paid for from a third-party company. There's a lot of antitrust laws. I will try to remember to put there is an antitrust guidelines from the FTC right on the federal government's website. And it clearly states out, there's only a few laws. They haven't written a lot of new laws on antitrust. In fact, I want to say it was Jon Stewart recently had the head of the FTC on. That's another video you should go watch. She is one of the sharpest government employees I've ever heard. She was amazing. Like, her parents must be very proud. But yeah, she really had it down, and she really knew the law. Because there's only a few, it's pretty easy to point out when people are breaking it. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know if they're actually breaking it, but it is getting into that area. And it is how you maximize profits by controlling the market. And these big corporations and investors don't care about the law. They'll head down that way, and then when they get the fine, it's a cost of doing business. And in the meantime, they've crushed all their competition. They've put out an inferior product, because we all know that competition causes you to have a better product. Pretty much they're just pumping out whatever will sell, right? So they are grading so many books that they had to move into this 9.9 so that they could get all the people who have 9.8s who paid to get that 9.8 to crack it and try back to get a 9.9. So how many times these guys are getting the same book graded? It also screws up their population. They say no because they ask people when they're reholdering to send the old one in. Reholdering, they have to send it in, but when they're getting it regraded, they don't have to send it in. And if you watch YouTube, you'll find lots of guys that have stacks of books they cracked out, pressed, and sent back in. There's a lot of people that go out and buy early CGC books, like CGC books from 10 years ago when pressing really wasn't a thing. Like everything that's going on now, people think always was going on. And we're even stepping more forward, right? So it got to a point that people said, hey, like I can press that wrinkle out. And then it got to they pressing a whole book. Then it got to they were cleaning a book with erasers. Now they're chemically cleaning books. Like it's getting closer and closer to restoration. And the closer we get to restoration, without making it a resto book, which everybody hates, nobody wants to pay for a restored book. I have 2 customers that come in and buy all my damaged old books. And their idea is that, like fine art, comics will get to that point where restoration is completely acceptable and will be preferred over a destroyed copy. So the more we get investors that are actually not in comics, people from the fine art world where, listen, they can invest in a comic book, a low grade, have it restored, and then sell it on the art market for more than what they bought it for. That's the point of investing, right? Buy low, sell high. So all this kind of thing can change. What we have now may not be what we have in the future. People are now ironing cards, sports cards and non-sports cards. They're no longer, hopefully they're no longer trimming, but that was a big problem for a while, was trimming cards. And that's been seen a lot of early comics also, micro trimming. Thoreau's talked about it. A lot of people have talked out about it. Dennis from Wonder World Comics. A lot of guys from the early CGC, where the covers in the 1950s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, the Golden Age stuff, a lot of times that those books, they actually had an overhang. And that overhang would really get dog-eared. So what people started doing was micro trimming it, just taking off a hair just to make it sharp. That was a problem that wasn't caught for a long time, so we don't know what books are micro trimmed and which ones aren't. This is all stuff we talked about it before. But like once you put all that under one roof, they decide if it's micro trimmed or not. They decide if it's restored or not. If they're the only ones out there, everybody's like, oh, we need a third-party grader. Maybe we need a fourth party to look at the grades and say, well, I'm looking at these 2 9/8. This one looks more like a 9.2. And you all know what I'm talking about. When it's your book, it's great. But when you're buying a book, you're like, hey, you know, this book it says 9.8 up here, but you know, I'm looking at it, it's not a 9.8. But that guy is always going to want that 9.8 price because it says 9.8 on the plastic. This is why I ask everybody to, you know, really get educated on grading books. If you want to buy expensive books and you want them to be in the best condition, learn how to grade a book. It's really not that hard. This is the thing, the fallacy that they've sold you, that this is so hard. Watch the video of them doing 9.9s and 10s and think if you couldn't figure out how to do that pretty quickly. The guy is looking at the books for less than 5 minutes, without gloves, he never looks at the inside. Pretty easy to grade a book that way, taking a glance around. You know, I have, you know, when you get a big book when you're a dealer, you look at it really quick, especially when you're getting it in a collection and you've just bought the collection at one price and you find a banger, right? You reach in, oh yeah, where's my price gun? I'm gonna put it up on the wall. You hit it with the price and you put it on the wall. Then the first person that says, hey, let me take a look at it, you take it down and I look at it and I go, oh. And then usually when I'm handing it to them, I'm like, don't even look at the price. That's not the right price. Because, you know, you get excited. It's the same with, I still love comics, so, and I still get excited when I get a big book. Like, you know, you saw the video on my Golden Age that I took in. Probably when I was buying them, I graded them higher than I should have. And I probably overpaid. But, you know, you don't see those books come along too often. But this is what I'm saying, is that if you're educated, you find a dealer that you can trust and you can talk about a grade and you can point things out. If you're educated, you can say, hey, did you notice this is actually a stress? This is a spine tick and it breaks, you know, more than 1/4 inch of color. You might not have noticed that this, you know, third to last page is folded over. You know, these are all little things that you can find and the dealer may have missed, man. I've got 100,000 books, and yeah, I should pour over every single one on the that I put up on the wall, and I try to my best, but there's only a certain number of hours in the day, and there's always new collections to go through. So there's that. I've gone way off tangent, but you guys are pretty used to that by now if you've been watching. Squirrel. Back to the point of the thing is that right now, Congress, Senate, and the FTC know nothing about the collector's market. If you brought it up to them, they wouldn't have any idea what the heck you were talking about. But it only takes one multi-million-dollar book to screw a big investor who has spent a lot of money investing in politicians to come to them and, you know, be, hey, I got really screwed. Somebody should be looking at how this is being done. Who's behind the scenes? Are they using illegal practices to gain market share? Are they dominating the market in a way that is monopolistic? Like I said, I always hate when people say, I did my own research. That means they watched another YouTube video. No, when I say do your own research, I want you to go to the government website and read the actual FTC antitrust laws. I think there's 4 of them. And you could probably point out some things that are close, are very on the borderline. So keep an eye out, keep reading comics, and get us to 2000.